In this tutorial, we'll be exploring how to create and post an event to the public calendar. So you'll need to have already created an account before you add an event, but once you're logged in, there are two ways that you can go about adding a new event. You can click on your profile icon at the top right of the corner of the webpage and select Account from the drop-down list, or you can click the Add Event icon in the header bar. For this tutorial, I'm going to go to my account dashboard. When you first arrive at your dashboard, you'll be able to see options for editing your personal profile, changing your email and password, and deleting your account. But let's look at the left side of the navigation pane. Under the section that says My Events is where you will add and manage the events and organizer profiles that you create. So let's create an event. Click on the Events tab. I currently have a demo event set up here so that you can see what the list of events will look like once you've created them, but I'm going to walk you through adding a new event. So click the Add Event button on the top left corner. It brings you to the event profile page. I first want to go over what the buttons at the top of the profile mean and how to use them. When you're finished creating your event, you're going to click the Submit for Review button. Our admin team reviews it before publishing it to the calendar to make sure everything looks top-notch and all the links work. Before you submit it, you have the option to preview what it will look like. If you don't want to submit it right away but want to come back later to finish it, you can save it as a draft. You'll always be able to see the status of the event, and currently this is in draft mode since I haven't yet submitted it. If you decide that you've changed your mind and don't want to create an event, you can always click the back button. So first things first, we'll give our event a name. For this demonstration, I'll be a yoga instructor, and my class is going to be a chair yoga class. Next, we'll select the date of the event and designate the start time. I'll go ahead and select 10:30. Now, if your event doesn't start on the hour or the half hour, you can always manually enter the start time in. Then we'll go ahead and enter the event finishing time. And notice that you can actually change the time zone as needed. If your event happens to be more than one day, say a weekend festival or a multi-day workshop, you can add multiple days. You can adjust the times to be different for each day too. You now have the option of making it a recurring event. You can designate it to be a daily, weekly, or monthly event. For this example, I'm going to have a weekly recurrence every Thursday. If your event occurs on multiple days each week, you can designate that here. This next section is where you're going to indicate if the event stops after a certain number of occurrences on a particular date, or if it goes on into eternity. Now let's talk about a different scenario. Let's say your events happen to fall on a Thursday and a Monday every week, but each of those days actually has different start and end times. In a case like this, go back to the multi-day option, and what you'll do is add the other days of the week that the event occurs, then adjust the start and end times for each unique day. Since these events will be recurring weekly, we're going to treat this as a cycle of events that starts on the first day of this event posting. So in this example, since Thursday is the first day of the posting, we'll select a weekly recurring cycle of the above days and times starting every Thursday. Do not also select Monday as a start day for this cycle. So to summarize, when it comes to posting recurring events that happen on multiple days during the week, the rule of thumb is that if your recurring events have different start and end times on the separate days, then treat them as a cycle of multi-day events, with the day of the week that your first event occurs on to be the day of the week that your recurring cycle is set to. If your events all have the same start and end time each day throughout the week, you'll use the first method that we cover and not treat it as a multi-day series. Now we'll select the event location, whether it's an in-person, online, or by phone. You can select multiple options as well. So let's say your event is in person, but it's also being live streamed, and the live stream is also accessible by telephone. But in this demo, we'll keep it simple and it will just be a virtual online event. Once you select the location, you can indicate whether your event requires registration, and you'll fill in the appropriate details. If your event requires online registration, perhaps through your own website, this is where you'll put that registration link. If people need to register by sending you an email, you'll enter that email address here. And likewise, if registration happens via telephone, you can enter that phone number here. Use this registration details box for any additional instructions that may be helpful for your attendees. If your event does not have registration, then you will need to provide other location information for the viewer. So in the case of an online event, you would add the event link, such as the Zoom link, and in the case of an in-person event, you would add the physical address. And just a side note that if you do not want to give out the exact address until people contact you and sign up first, you can always just add a city and a state. But for this example, I am going to require registration, so I will select that. And notice that it did save all the information that I previously entered. Now you'll select the price of your event. For paid events, you have the option of entering any text that you'd like, so you can type in the dollar amount, or if your event is donation-based, for example, you can type in donation. My event is going to be free, so I'm going to select free. Now we'll move on to adding an event profile picture. So to add a picture, just click on the box or drag and drop, and you'll be able to upload your own. Now you will have an opportunity to edit the photo first if need be. You can resize it to fit the screen better, you can flip it or rotate it, but this one looks pretty good to me, so I'll just click done. Now if you wanted to change the picture to something else, you'll need to first remove the image and then upload a new one. So next it's time to add a description. I already had some pre-written text just for the sake of saving time, so I'll go ahead and paste it here. Now you have a lot of options for formatting. You can change the heading styles, bold it, add bullet points, and you can also enter hyperlinks that go to other pages on your website, for example, or other online content. Next, you'll select the categories of the event. The more category tags you add, the more visibility you'll have when people do specific category searches. But of course, to state the obvious, please don't tag anything that could be misleading. In this next section, you have the option of specifying age requirements and accessibility options. Some programs we do know have age restrictions, so this is where you can denote that. You can also indicate whether it's wheelchair accessible or has ASL interpretation available. If you have any social media links associated with your event itself, this is where you will add them. And you may add as many platforms as you'd like, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as long as it's relevant and specific to the event itself. There will be another area to enter social media links about the event host organizer. Speaking of adding general organizer information, now is when we get to create our organizer profile. All the organizers that you have created will be listed here in this drop-down menu every time you create a new event. I've created a demo organizer called A Mighty Good Time, but I'm going to walk you through how to create a brand new one. So go ahead and click on the Add New Organizer. Now since I'm playing the part of a yoga instructor right now, I'm going to create a new organizer profile for my yoga business. Enter either the name of the business, organization, or individual that's hosting the event. You can upload your logo as well. Now there isn't an option to edit this picture, so make sure your logo is ready to go before you upload it. Now you'll enter at least one type of contact information, be it your website, email, or phone number. We encourage adding all of it if possible, because providing people with multiple ways to contact you can be helpful in case they have any questions about you or the event. Next, you'll use this area to add descriptive information about you. And here is where you will add general social media links that are associated with the organizer rather than the specific social links associated with the event. Again, feel free to add as many as you would like. Now that you've created the organizer profile, you have the option to cancel your changes by clicking Never Mind, or you can preview what it will look like on your event postings. All of your organizer information will be permanently saved in your account so that you don't have to re-enter it each time you create an event, and it will be listed in this drop-down list. All organizers do need to be approved by our team before we list them publicly, which is why you're going to see this pending status here. Once it's been approved, you will not see that anymore. So it looks like we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and preview it before we submit it. Now you'll notice at the top, because there is a recurring event, you'll be able to click here and see all upcoming dates. This is where you'll see a quick reference to the virtual links or the physical address if it's in person. The registration button is ready to go. When I click in, you'll see those 3 different registration options that I provided. And when you're all done editing, go ahead, click the Submit for Review button at the top, confirm it, And off it goes. So please allow for up to 48 hours for approval, but it is very rare that it takes longer than 24. So now we see our event listed and that it's still in pending status. As soon as it's reviewed and approved, that status will change to active, and it will be at that point publicly visible in the calendar search results. To manage or edit your organizers, click on the Organizer tab on the left navigation pane. Here you'll see the one we just created. If you'd like to edit information about your organizer, click on the Organizer profile and then click the Edit button. Now let me show you some really great tips and tricks for saving time when creating events. If some of the content is the same for many of your events, for example, the registration process, you can always duplicate an event profile, switch out the information that is different, and then resubmit it as a separate event. This prevents you from having to create an entirely new event profile from scratch. So let's go ahead and walk through that. Let's say I have an aerobics class that happens on Mondays. So I'll go into my chair yoga profile and then select the duplicate button. Now I have a carbon copy of my old event, and I can just swap out any new relevant information. By doing it this way, I can keep the registration information in there since it's the same for all my events. And I can even keep some of that text in the event description that has all the hyperlinks, so I don't have to re-enter any of that. Once this is submitted, it will now be considered its own separate event. You can use this duplicate feature on any event, regardless of whether it's pending, active, or expired. One more thing I want to mention that's really helpful to know is that once an event has passed, it will be labeled expired. But you can always edit events that are expired and update it with any information needed. For example, a new date and time and a new registration link. Once you submit it, it now becomes a new occurrence. This is a great option to use instead of duplicating if it's just the same event that's happening again. Once your events have been approved, you will notice that the status will be updated to active, indicating that they're now visible on the public calendar.